Yes, we are live. I'm just awaiting Michael to arrive. It was my fault. It took me a little bit too long to actually realise I didn't even send Michael the link to come on. I don't know what I was doing. I was having a funny 5 minutes, and I sat here. I was like, right, 5 minutes to go. Let's make sure I got everything right. And I thought, do you know what? I haven't emailed Michael the link, so we're going to have a interesting chat with Michael. But I didn't send him the link. Yep, that's how the whiz rolls. So I have to apologise to Michael for that one. So how you doing, Dazzler? How you doing, Phil? Electrodoc's in the house, and we also have we have Michael. How are you, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, cool. Okay, brilliant. Let me just
sending you the links so late. I completely forgot. Oh, I don't know what I was thinking. But...
Cool. No worries. That's great. I'm just right. I'll just sorry. Just
you got it all going on, but yeah. So we'll give it a couple of minutes and let people join us and everything.
Lot going on, brother. I'm just trying to. Oh, there it is. Okay.
That's a good thing. I've had a morning from hell, man.
Yeah, we've had chickens escaping. We've got cow problems. We've got all sorts going on.
Wow. But, happy days.
So I'm back in from the fields. Just made it on time. So right on.
Oh, happy days. Morning. Happy days.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Sorry.
But yeah, it's been one of those days for me as well. We've I had to call the police this morning and all sorts. I thought, here we go. It's gonna be one of them days. I thought I was going to be arrested for hurting someone this morning, but it's all being worked out as we speak. So it's all good. We are here with Michael, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're well. Michelangelo, Mr. Waffle, Electrodoc, Dazzle, Phil, and our Robin's in the house, and so is Lisa saying hello. What I'm going to do, ladies and gents, because when I talk with Michael, he talks about stuff that I literally know nothing about. So I cannot, in any shape or form, prepare questions. It's just, so it's basically, as we're going through, if something comes to me and I want to ask him, I will. So if you could do the same in chat, if there's anything you want to ask him, if I see it, I will put it up on screen and then we can ask him. But other than that, what we do is we let Michael talk, let him say what he wants to say. Like I say, I haven't got a clue what he's going to talk about. It's all going to be new to me as well. This is sort of like, well, it's not really an interview. It's more Michael sort of opening our minds, opening our hearts to this, that, and everything else that's going on, and you know what he wants to tell us. Going by the last stream, had over 400 views, so you know that's popular in my book. So people like what he says. So he had to come back because we did get sidetracked a bit. But like I say, unscripted, literally unscripted. It's not like when I sat with Paul Thorpe and I had about 20 questions. I got zero. I got zero. So all I know is I'm wearing my cross. I have prayed to Jesus Christ that Michael doesn't make me look stupid with some of the questions I might ask, and it should be a good one. So, like I say, any questions, whack them in the chat. I should see them. If you think I might miss it, then you can do the super chat. You can do the Ko-fi. It's totally up to you. But I do try to get through every single chat question that's up that I see. All right, ladies and gents, so it's all happy days. So I'm taking the I've just had a moment like, did I actually, is the link at the top for the Ko-fi? I hope it is. If it's not, I'll have to do it, but I'll try and do it before the stream. Yes, it is up there. I thought I'd double check. Happy days. So I don't know if you saw the last chat we had with Michael, but that was very, very eye-opening. I think we had a bit of 9/11 and everything going on, but this time Michael wants to sort of stick to what he had planned. I believe the 4 books that he recommends, I think, are in the description below, I believe. I have kept the text of them because I wanted to make sure. It's The Babylonian Woe by David Astle, One World Order by Dr. John Coleman, Restoring Abrahamic Faith by James Tabor, and Blip by Christopher Clugston. The links those books should be listed in the description. If they're not, they will be later. So go check them out, and they're must reads, as Michael tells us. So I'm going to have to see if maybe they're on Spotify or anything or whatever. But yeah, definitely worth a read. But anyway, that's enough talking. That's 5 minutes of me just talking.
No, good.
There's one.
Yeah, I'm just rereading this. It's actually very good. Anything Dostoevsky's written is very good, but Crime and Punishment is unputdownable. So that's they're all good. But that's you'll learn a lot about the world by reading Dostoevsky. Yeah, but anyway. So cracking on. So so Rupert Lowe, Mr. Lowe, and Mr. Habib, of course, they're in the news these days. And I've been through, everything that they're saying, and I respect both men. I'd love to have the opportunity to meet both men, and of course, we must somehow find a way of bringing everybody together in the nationalist camp, because nationalism, when you correctly understand what nationalism is and present it, it is fundamental for world peace and a cleaner natural environment. And the reason why nationalism is being attacked is because I guess the architects of this disaster are anti-natural law. So they're doing everything they can, as the Fabians agreed to do in 1848 when they were created. They would destroy the nation, the family, and the religion, and that they would do it incrementally over decades and generations in order to bring about a one world order socialist dictatorship. So we're just trying to reverse that and get back to natural law. And tribalism is deeply natural, and it's just a reflection of nature. And the challenge for humanity is, how do we make sure that there's all these different national groups, genuine nations, and these propositional nations aren't genuine nations, whether they be Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the USA. These were creations of the international money power, and all the nations of sub-Saharan Africa and India. I mean, there's so many nations in the world that were actually created in some office in the city of London and remained to this day. So the international money power remains alive and kicking, and it's been alive and kicking for about 4,000 years. That's as much as the data tells us. So it's all in the historical record. But because academia and the political class and mainstream media have been captured by these people and have been for centuries, the truth can't get out. So the truth's there for all to see. And some of those books that I recommended kind of highlight this. But the political class and the bureaucratic class of the West are just, they've been captured, and they're just the servants and slaves of this system, and in order for them to keep their jobs, they just have to remain as servants and slaves, because if they speak out against it and apply reason to the world, and or love to the world, that's going to slow their career down and quite likely have them displaced and replaced. So they're captured as well, some of them willingly, because they're part of secret societies, or they're just shameless opportunists, or they're compromised assets of the intelligence community, or they've been bribed. They're just shameless opportunists, or they're just doing it for the money, or they may even believe in the great lie, which of course the great lie is not backed up by reason. So we've been massively deceived, and have been all our lives, and our ancestors, and they're going back centuries. So I just Mr. Habib and Mr. Lowe, I think, are good people, but don't forget they come from the banking community. Mr. Habib worked for Lehman Brothers. Mr. Lowe worked for Barings and some other people. So they are bankers, but bankers can be reformed, right? So so that would be I'd be a little bit concerned. And Mr. Lowe is saying a lot of the right, at least he understands what a nation is. And Mr. Habib, bless his heart, doesn't. And Mr. Habib he's trying to convince us, or maybe convincing himself, because don't forget, it's good to study miscegenation and what happens with the children of a mixed race marriage, and all the data's there. I mean, you can Google it, or AI will tell you. There are, and I know mixed race people, and I myself, I'm not like a pure Irish man. I've got English and Ashkenazi, Sephardic, Jewish DNA on my mother's side, and on my father's, I got this Celtic thing going. So I understand, you know, the kind of the potential for mixed loyalties. But I've picked my side. I'm picking this, you know, my father's bloodline. So I'm strongly identifying with the Irish side, but I'm not completely accepted by a lot of Irish people because I'm not, you know, two Irish parents, you know, so that can be challenging, but I'm not damaged by it, you know, and but you know, but I'm accepted by the Irish people, you know, that once they see the surname, they realize I'm kind of, you know, I have a foot in the tribe, but you know, I have a foot in some other tribes. But so I'm loyal not only to my father's bloodline, but I'm loyal to not only my mother's bloodline, but also every other nation. So I'm for me to be a nationalist is you have to primarily love and serve your nation, but you have to have love and respect for all nations. That to me is a nationalism, is a nationalist and the nationalist ideal, because you know, it's about these wars of aggression. So that's why I put my plan together, really. But I've been working at it throughout my life, and I maybe started when I was at the age of 9. But you know, so it's and you know, so I've seen a lot. You know, I've seen the inside of prison cells and war zones and hospitals, and so I've had lots of time to kind of you know think about these things. And lots of friends around the world from all races have seen my ideas, and they like my ideas. You know, and they've affected them in some way. They've critiqued them, and so when I put it through AI, and it took a while, but eventually AI was handy, and it gave me a 9.5 out of 10 rating, and I've put and Mr. Habib and Mr. Lowe, they can put their vision and plan through AI as well and see how it comes up. Well, I've done the same with UN, and AI recognize this, is that the UN, the EU and the US vision and plan for the world doesn't score as high as mine. But it's not mine, you know, it's just, I just kind of channeled it and my experiences. So I put my name to it, but I don't own it. It's about reason. You know, it's about love. It's about truth. It's about better ideas for all nations and for the earth, the earthly home that we share. So that's kind of where I come from. And it's not set in stone. And I want everybody you can put it through AI, those 25 points, actually the 26th point, which isn't on my unattractive website. I'm not a techie, so I one day, you know, hopefully over the next few weeks, I'll create a beautiful website. But the 26th point, because it got 9 out of 10, and then I thought, wow, how can I get 10 out of 10? Anyway, so the 26th point is that I will use AI oversight, but ensure human leadership. And so that 26th point got me to 9.5. So that way I'm kind of including the robots. They're with us for the time being, so let's put them to use. But it's not sustainable. It's not a sustainable technology. And you know, I go back to geological economists. They understand this, and so that's why since the 1920s they've been crying out that we've gone too far, and the future of humanity it's a post-industrial world, and you know, and they all know that, the elites know that, and so that's why they're behaving the way that they are. So, and so I don't know. It's just that's it. We can talk about different points on the plan, but you know, Mr. Habib and Mr. Lowe, at least Mr. Lowe has a better understanding of what a nation is. And Mr. Habib is still trying to kind of make this melting pot work, but it was never intended to work. And so I don't know, is he a player? Is Mr. Lowe a player? But if Mr. Lowe, because they both come from banking, you know, I know stockbrokers, I know bond traders and all sorts of people, you know, and I've done, you know, surveillance in that world. If they can say that the problems with all of this is the international money power, okay, the central banking system, whether it be the City of London or Wall Street or the Bank of International Settlements in Switzerland. And I've done surveillance in Switzerland, so I know a little bit about Switzerland. And if they, as bankers, they should be saying this, that, I mean, even Queen Victoria said the stock market was just legalized gambling. And of course, insider trading is a real thing. And so they hopefully, I mean, there are people that are saying this now, that are speaking out. I think Colonel McGregor and he's worth listening to. And he's a decorated combat veteran from the US military. Colonel McGregor is, I think, interesting. But at least he's talking about the central banks. So if Mr. Lowe and Mr. Habib start saying, look, this is what controls the world, is the international money power, the central banking system. And so if it wasn't for their involvement, there wouldn't be any wars. I mean, and it's a cliche, but it's true. All wars are bankers' wars. And then it's when you understand the esoteric aspect that is behind the banking and how far it goes back, we just have to have an honest debate about that. And so Mr. Lowe is right in saying that, people need to go back to their ancestral homelands, but their ancestral homelands are run by the same people that run our ancestral homelands. So, we have to say the emperor wears no clothes. And I've been to the worst places on earth, and they're run by the worst people on earth in those countries. But those, the worst people in Africa are kind of running African nations. There's a few kind of exceptions, and some of them are speaking out. The president of Ghana and is saying some interesting things, and I'm in touch with his office. Burkina Faso, the youngest elected member in Africa, he's saying some interesting things. So there is, the African Union is it's like the European Union. The African Union was put there to really just kind of manage the chaos in Africa, not to make Africa a better place. And the European Union was created to basically destroy Europe and to destroy the genuine nations of Europe. So, and these are real things. If you go back to the history, where did the EU come from? Where did the African Union, like the UN and the purpose of the UN? And I've dealt with the UN. I've got a friend who works for the UN at the moment, right now in New York. And the UN was created really just to manage the chaos created by the international money power. That's what it was created for. The UN in New York was built on a slaughter, an old abattoir. That's where that land used to be an abattoir for killing. Well, it's still an abattoir. The UN just oversees the chaos. It doesn't stop the chaos. It might appear to, when the bankers decide, okay, we'll stop the chaos now, and now you've got to sort out, okay, we'll stop the war. But the UN, allowed for the invasion of Iraq. And my friend Scott Ritter was the chief UN weapons inspector. He had access to Saddam Hussein's toilet. There were no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but they decided to go to war. So, and you go back to 9/11. The official narrative is the greatest hoax of the 21st century. And that's what led to all these wars, and those wars still continue. It's just the ripple effect, and it goes on to this day. So if you want to return people back to their country, well, you have to demand and insist and ensure as a nationalist that those nations that they're going back to are governed by the good, the wise, and the virtuous of those nations, because that's not the case right now. They're governed by, once again, compromised assets of the intelligence community, or just opportunists, selfish opportunists, and criminals. It's just, and we have the data on that. So, Mr. Lowe and Mr. Habib, okay, if you want to send these people back home, to their ancestral homelands where they truly belong, they shouldn't be going back to a hellhole. There should be maybe a British Foreign Legion that is, we have the French Foreign Legion, we have the Wagner Group. Well, hey, why not be a British Foreign Legion, where all these non-Europeans that have been dumped in Ireland, in England, in Wales and Scotland, these people that don't belong there because they have another place that they can call home. The only place that the English, Irish, Scottish and Welsh can call home is this archipelago of islands off, the west coast of Europe. These are our ancestral homelands, but we've been displaced all over the world in order to steal lands from indigenous people and to create this infrastructure, so that resources can be extracted and all sorts of things. So that's what's happened. So if Mr. Lowe wants them to go back, well, you're sending them back to a hellhole. Of course they want to stay here because they get the red carpet treatment. They'll never have to work again. They can live on social welfare. Fantastic. But their hearts, and I speak to these people, they would love to be, they'd love Ghana to be a bit like Norway. Why can't Somalia? It's like, we can, within all these ethnic groups of Africa, there are highly intelligent people. There are good, wise and virtuous people, but they don't get to be part of the government structure of their nation. They get displaced or they get killed. And they're encouraged over here. Our own governments, what's going on across the channel, that could be stopped very quickly. With people from Hereford or Three Power or a bunch of, that could be sorted out very easily. With someone on a laptop can sort that problem out. You don't even have to put troops in the field. I mean, you can literally do it with small drones and a laptop, so that no dinghy would leave the beaches of France. It's very easy to kind of sort that one out. But the so-called British government, their purpose is to destroy Britain. That's their purpose, right? And
yep.
And I know some. I won't go into who I know, but they're all captured. It's tragic to see this unfold. And for me, it just goes back to how much do you deeply, deeply care about children, right? Because they are the next generation. And I've seen enough of them
yep.
starving to death and bleeding to death. And I've held so many babies. I've held my own children. And so, I mean, they're now deciding to kill babies in the womb one day before they're due to be born. I mean, how evil and how satanic is that? How we deserve to be wiped out. We have lost. We don't deserve a nation, right? We need to be wiped out. But the people that are going to replace us aren't going to replace us with better people. They're still going to manage whoever replaces us. And don't forget, in 2018, it was decided in Marrakesh, Morocco, by the United Nations, and every European nation was represented there. The only nation that pushed back was Hungary. But in 2018, they decided, and it's online, the Marrakesh Compact, that they would displace and replace the European population with sub-Saharan African, North African and Middle Eastern migrants, and chuck in a bunch of Slavic people from this other engineered war in Ukraine. And that's it. So that's the law. So most of my activism was with the military and with the police. Is their morale is very low because they know they're being displaced and replaced, but they have to oversee this evil crime because they are the strong arm. The military and the police are the strong arm of the of this agenda, and their job is oversee this project, the displacement and the replacement of the European people in their ancestral homelands. So Mr. Lowe and Mr. Habib, you've got to talk about this. You've got to talk about this, because in the UK now, Mr. Habib has more rights than Mr. Lowe, right? He's included in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. There's no place for Mr. Lowe, because I'm assuming that he's a straight white man, right? Well, if you look into DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, which to me is really an IED, right? It's an improvised explosives device, because any society that embraces DEI will be destroyed by this improvised explosive device. That's what it is. But Mr. Habib, he has a place in DEI, right? Because he's not white, right? He's not white. He's mixed race, but he belongs to another tribe. And his mother knew that when she decided to, engage with another man in that kind of behavior, and that kind of behavior has consequences and it's children. But she knew that she was kind of leaving the tribe and joining another tribe and engaging with that kind of behavior. And so what she's produced is this mixed race child. So he doesn't really know who he is. He's trying to be kind of like a British guy, but he's kind of not really, because he goes back to Pakistan. I spent quite a bit of time in Pakistan. I know Pakistan very well. And I've been all over it, doing all sorts of things. And he's not fully accepted. If he goes back there, he's like, well, go stay with my friends in the Sindh, go stay with my friends up around Peshawar or Murray and places like that. He's no. He's kind of not. He's kind of half Pakistani, but whatever. So he knows the challenge of all of that. But he's got more rights in England than Mr. Lowe, right? And so, we just have to have a chat about this, and so every nation's going to have to deal with mixed race people. And my plan is kind of covers that, because that's a real thing. And I have, every nation should. And if you look at the data, actually, European people are actually more accepting of mixed race people than other ethnic groups and other racial groups. If you just look at the data, right? I've got mixed race friends and also, and so it is a challenge when you're a mixed race person. And if you actually look at the crime stats and the suicide stuff and a whole bunch of other things, mixed race people are more prone to some of these things. For many, and I've got mixed race friends, they just deal with it and they carry on and they're successful and they have a wonderful life. But for some of them, it is challenging, and it's tragically challenging. And so we just have to look at the data on this. And it's not just AI. We can look at AI if we're lazy, but there's just all this other published data. If you're into reading books on these subjects. So that's all it is, brother. And I deeply love all nations of the world. I deeply love all people of the world. I've seen enough of them bleeding to death, and I participated in some of these things. So I was following orders, or I was paid to do it or whatever. But it's war is a very messy business and very unpredictable. And when you realize that it's actually all rigged, we have to kind of reverse engineer this stuff and unrig it. So that's my vision, which I wrote down in 2020, and I call it 2020. And as a pilot, having 2020 vision's good. My pilot, I don't think I'd still pass a biennial as a commercial pilot, but my eyesight's not as good as it is. I still have to read in good daylight. I'm not so good at reading in low light these days. But anyway, my vision I wrote down in 2020 is to see the end of all wars of aggression between nations, and that all nations become good stewards of the natural environment of their nation. That's it. That's my vision. That's not going to change. But my 26-point plan, totally open up to debate, open up to ripping it apart. But as it stands at the moment, it gets 9.5 out of 10. So that's where I'm at, bro. So let's fix this thing. And do you have any questions?
What is it like today? Say literally today. What is it the UK or the UK people could actually do with what you're saying? I mean, because a lot are blind to it. Obviously, literally, I am until you tell me. So, I mean, what is it we could actually do physically?
Well, physically get fit and healthy, and start eating healthy food. I mean, look at the culture of the West. I mean, what is it primarily? It's shopping and fornication. That's it. I mean, there are deeply spiritual people that haven't been caught up in the woke agenda, and raise their families and have wonderful relationships, and are good people. But our culture is toilet, really. I mean, it's just binge watching, Netflix, scrolling on your iPhone. It's just fornication, it's drugs, it's alcohol. That's not a high culture. It's music concerts. It's bread and circuses. It's bread and circuses. It's abortion. It's terrible parenting. A lot of people are really good at parents. I know what it's like to be a single parent, or to be a stay-at-home mother, right? You know, I unfortunately, tragically, I guess, became a single parent when my son was 6 months old and my daughter was 2. So my whole life changed, and I didn't get any warning. It just changed that day. And you know, and my children's mother, you know, I think a wonderful woman, but you know, a Jewish woman. Well, she's Sephardic Jewish on her mother's side and Irish on her father's side, but you know, essentially she was a great woman. But 4 years of living a kind of little house on the prairie lifestyle over here in Ireland with goats and children, it was just a bit too much for her. So yeah, she's been missing in action ever since. But you know, peace be upon her. You know, I couldn't really dwell on that, and because I had, you know, nappies to change and babies to feed and a toddler to feed. So I cracked on, right? You just carry on. You don't quit. And so that's where I'm at now. And it's great. So, but I know that to be a parent, I mean, you're holding the future in your hands, right? You have these little things, these little babies, and I saw both my children being born. And you know, I have an obligation to the future to try and give them the best childhood possible. You know, even if I was living in a van or living in a tent, you know, I can still give them the best childhood possible. You know, they know every single day that they are so loved by me. You know, and I do have to rule over them, right? But I rule over them with it's a kind of a benign dictatorship. And benign means kind and gentle. So I rule over them kindly and gently, but I'm in charge and I listen to them. I listen to everything they say, and you know, in some ways I'm the head, but they are the neck. They can influence me. They can turn me, and they have a better idea. I go, you know what? Let's do it that way because that's a better idea. So they're not afraid of me. They know they can contribute, but I make the executive decisions, right? So that's parenting. It should be a benign dictatorship, and the mother and father, they come together as one, and you know, because if your childhood is full of baggage, you're going to carry that baggage around throughout your life. And so many of these powerful people that are in place have, if you look into it, and you can, Winston Churchill, terrible childhood, right? Some of the stuff that went on in their childhood was horrible. And so that scar you carry around. So I have that deep obligation, not only to my children, primarily to my children, but to the future. So that when my children become adults in the future, they're not going to be daydreaming about how awful their childhood was or how awful their parents were. They won't have that. They won't have that excuse, right? They won't have that reason for their dysfunction or their criminality or their failure, right? They'll have other reasons. So hopefully it won't be me, and it won't be their childhood. So you know, we have to have a conversation about parenting and courtship. You know, what does courtship look like if it's going to put together people that are meant for each other, and are going to go ahead and possibly have children? And what kind of parenting are they going to be doing? So, oh no, our culture is toilet, really. It doesn't talk about these things. No, it's a stay-at-home parent is so important, whether it be a man or a woman. And actually, if you look at the data, and it's all out there, and my sister used to be a social worker, but look at the data. Men, and there are some horrible men who are single parents, right? But if you look at it, men actually make better single parents than women, all right? Especially when it comes to raising boys, and even raising girls. But it's interesting, and I talk with lots of single parents. Men actually make better single parents. I'm not encouraging it, but we just we're pretty good at being disciplined and getting stuff done, especially if you've got a military background. But so it's kind of an airborne forces, elite forces, style of parenting that my children are receiving. But and elite forces the toughest, hardest men I've ever met are actually the kindest and the best, the most gentlemen I've ever met. The most gentlemanly men I've ever met have, extreme, elite force background, and they're very, very tough guys, but they're very kind and gentle men. They're very, very good. A genuine warrior is a kind and gentle man, and avoid trouble, avoid violence. But if it kicks off and you can't avoid it, they generally perform reasonably well. But parenting that's the front line. I mean, as a parent, as a single parent, certainly there are times when you want to throw your children through the window, but you don't, because you have the skill set to overcome that tendency, right? Because children, they don't want you wind yourself up. If you don't know how to breathe properly and how to meditate and be in a stressful situation, if you don't know how to manage stress, chances are you will lash out at your children, or so it's you have to be prepared to be a parent, and we don't prepare our people for parenting. Parenting is very, very challenging, but it's the most important job in the world. It's the most important job because you have the future in your hands. And so I can handle stress. I've been taught the techniques, so I'm a better man because of my children, because I've been in a lot of stressful situations, and so I've been prepared for that. And so we need to really prepare ourselves for parenting and taking it serious. And our shops are full of food that shouldn't even be there. Right, it's not food; it's denatured, it's synthetic, and so our shop should only be full of food that is grown on these islands. Right, like if you like mangoes, go live in a place where they grow mangoes. If you like avocados, go live in Spain, go live in South America. We should only be eating food that is grown here. Right, that's it. And there's loads of food. You can eat incredible food is grown in England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales, and that should be the food we should be eating, not imported food. We don't eat imported food. And if we are going to import food, it should only come from the nation next door to us, not halfway around the world. I mean, in Ireland now, they're exporting Irish beef, and they're importing beef from South America. That's insane.
It's a bit,
but it's all by design. And so we just have to be real about what is good, what is true, and what and we don't do that anymore. I mean, that's Greek philosophy. That's all it is. Greek philosophy is just this perpetual debate about what is good, what is true, and what is real. That's all it is. Okay, so if Mr. Habib and Mr. Lowe have an idea, okay, well, let's see. Is it a good idea based on data? Is it a true story? Is it real? Can a man become a woman? Well, that's not true. That's not true, and that's insane. I mean, if you think it can, then you have a serious mental health issue. If you yourself believe that's possible, or you yourself are actually supporting that idea, then no, you have some mental health issue. But that's the law. That's that and people who if people kind of see through that lie, that's a criminal offense. If you don't agree with that lie, you could end up in jail. They haven't put it there yet, but we know, pilots know, engineers know that the official narrative of 9/11 was a hoax. It was a lie. Well, and I can prove that, right? Any pilot can prove that. But it might become a criminal offense, because after 9/11 they got in these anti-terrorist laws. It's a war on terrorism, a non-ending war on terrorism. And after COVID, which was 9/11 was the hoax of the 21st century until COVID came along. But 9/11 got in these laws, these anti-terrorist laws. And so if you don't agree with the government narrative, you'll be detained and prosecuted under these anti-terrorist laws. You know, if your tweet is wrong, because your opinion, right, which is based on you know, what is true, what is real, and if you know, the Greek philosophy thing, you know, it's, you know, what is good, what is true, what is real. If your reasoning comes from that place, well, your opinion is a threat to the public order, right? Is a threat to the public order. So you will have to be detained, right? A lot, like during the Second World War, many people were detained because they knew that the Second World War was just World War I Part 1. Well, no, that's a threat to the public order. So we're going to have to detain you because you're using your reasoning brain. You know, you're using, you know, what is good, what is true, what is real, but because you're voicing that publicly or in a tweet, you're a danger. You know, the public need to be protected from people like you. So that's where we're at. You know, and Mr. Lowe's right on the DEI thing. He's right about so many things, but he doesn't fully understand what a nation is and how best to protect it for itself and for all nations of the world. And that's what nationalism has to be. If you're a so-called British nationalist or an Irish nationalist, you have to be for all nations of the world, right? So it's not just my nation. No. My nation is better protected when all other nations know that I'm not going to attack them, that I'm not going to allow my elite class engineer a war against them and send my people to fight that war. So, you know, I mean, just so, yeah.
Well, Up the Cherry said, so as you asked, what can we do? And he replies, get fit and don't trust Ben and Rupert as their bankers. I really hope Michael is going to at least offer us a way to go forward.
Don't trust any politician. Don't trust any politician. Trust yourself. And if they are a reflection of what you know, if they're a reflection of your vision and plan for the world, okay, you know, give them a break and let's see how they go on. But no, don't trust any politician, right? Don't trust any politician. And I worked for a U.S. congressman and a presidential candidate, so I was, you know, behind the scenes, behind the curtain on a presidential campaign. It's all theater. And the guy I worked for, it was a good guy. I liked him, but he's a player. They're all players. They're all players. You sit me down with any politician, right? You sit me down with any, you know, senior commander of elite forces, you know, first or second tier elite forces, and I've sat down with the commander of the British forces in Afghanistan, and they're all players. They're all players. But I'm no longer going to sit down with these people unless it's on camera. And you sit me down with the SBS guy. You know, he's a good guy, I think, but let me sit down with him. Ant Middleton.
Yeah.
Let myself and Ant have a chat. And I have so much respect for you know, particularly, you know, troops of first and second tier elite forces. So, you know, I come from that world. I know it's, you know, it's challenging to get into those units. And so I have a lot of respect for their skill set. But they're not genuine warriors, because a warrior has to identify the enemy, right? And advance to contact. They've been told that there's this other enemy, you know, and they perform, you know, very well in the field. But that's not the real enemy. The real enemy are the people that sent them to that war, right? The real energy of the real enemy, the architects, right? And you know, so what are they doing? And so when you leave elite forces, there's all sorts of work available for you at any age. At my age now, there's all sorts of work available to, you know, in training and in surveillance. Maybe not, you know, I'd be no use in the field, right? Carrying a, you know, 100-pound Bergen or whatever, and I still carry a Bergen, but it's a lot lighter these days. But it's, you know, but there is still work for me in surveillance. There's still work for me in training. I can do that. And so when you leave elite forces, you have all these opportunities. And so, you know, if you're doing surveillance or close protection, you know what's going on behind the curtain. So, and I, you know, some of my friends are still doing this work, right? And they're not speaking out, but, you know, peace be upon them. They're my friends, and I'm loyal to my friends. So but they tell me things, and if I mention their name, they'd have me killed more than likely. So, but so, you know, I'm not going to go rogue on them. And but so we know what's going on, you know. And so, Ant Middleton, what are you doing? What are you doing to really expose what's going on? And I'd love to chat to him. I have a lot of respect for these men, but they're not genuine warriors in the sense that they really go and they really advance to contact to, you know, towards the true enemy, and that's it. And, you know, nothing goes on in number 10 Downing Street, and I know that isn't filtered through the Bank of England. Nothing. And the cabinet meeting, the Bank of England are there, right? Their agents are there at the table. And if they don't like it, it doesn't go down. It won't happen. You know.
Wow.
And now it's you know, and this whole insanity in Russia, Ukraine. Oh God. I mean, that's an easy one to deconstruct. And what's going on in the Middle East and will happen in Iran. You know, President Trump, he's just a compromised asset of the intelligence community. That's why he's the president. That's why he's there. And you know, he lives in fear. So, and he's entertaining, but he's a compromised asset. That's why he's there. And he knows that he'll be killed. And so he's just got to go along with it, right? And it's very, very sad because so many children, as we speak, are bleeding to death, being crushed under rubble, you know. And so what are we doing to protect them? And it's not just about the children in the Gaza Strip. I mean, the Gaza Strip was completely set up. Of course, that was allowed to happen on the 7th of October. There's nothing goes on inside the Gaza Strip that MI6 or CIA or Mossad or GCHQ, the signals intelligence, they know. They know what these people have for breakfast. And they know, you know, it's just, of course, the Gaza Strip could have been, you know, Singapore on the you know, Eastern Mediterranean, but it wasn't allowed to be, you know. And you know, who funded Hamas, you know, and all these things. And yeah, so, you know, and I'm a nationalist. That there's a chunk of the Middle East that belongs to the Jewish people, right? That's their land, right? That's their land, and every Muslim knows that, right? It's their land. Right, they were there first. They created a civilization there. It's their land. But the deal was that it's their land only under the law of Moses, right? And it's pretty clear what the law of Moses is. You know, read the Hebrew prophets, especially the ones that were, you know, stoned to death, Jeremiah or Isaiah, that was sawn in half by their own people, right? They were trying to get these people back onto the original Abrahamic faith. Well, I know enough, you know, rabbis and Orthodox Jewish people who know that the original Abrahamic faith has been changed, right? It's been changed. So rabbinical Judaism isn't the original Abrahamic faith. And Christianity and Islam are creations, right? They're not the original Abrahamic faith. They're something else. And Yeshua or Jesus, whatever you want to call him, he wasn't trying to start a new religion. He was just trying to bring people back to the original Abrahamic faith. And, you know, so that's it. But it is their land. But they're not behaving like people who, they were given a clear moral compass of how to behave. But the Zionist state of Israel, and I know Israelis, right? I know Israelis today, friends of mine. And it's really just a safe house for organized crime. It's a secret lab.
Yeah.
And it's and so much, you know, when so many people who surveillance is done on them, who are doing terrible, terrible things, end up fleeing to Israel, and no court in the land can get them back. Well, no matter what they've done, right? So it's tragic, because I really feel for the Jewish people, because I've got a bit of that DNA in me, right? And So, you know, I have literally a heart for them. You know, every cell in my body has a little signature of that bloodline. So I care about them. Because to some degree, you could say they're my people. In some degree, you could say the Irish are my people, because I'm made up of this. And but then the Jewish people aren't being represented by the good, the wise, and the virtuous Jewish people at all. And then you've got to look at, so much about, you know, the whole Babylonian experience of the Jewish people. You know, when the Jewish people were allowed to return to their ancestral homeland after the Babylonian captivity, they were funded by the king of Babylon, who funded the building of the Second Temple. And so, you know, who pays the piper calls the tune, right? So were they the real, were these people coming back into their ancestral homeland to restore the original Abrahamic faith? Well, shortly after that, you know, this character Yeshua, Jesus, comes along and he exposes them, right? Because they weren't doing that. And his last public speech, Matthew 23, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, right? That was his last public speech before they killed him, arrested him and killed him. Read that speech, because that's what's happening in England. That's what's happening in Ireland. That's what's happening in Wales. That's what's happening in Scotland. That last speech, Matthew 23, all right, just read that speech, and that is as fresh today as it was back then, right? All he was exposing was the command structure. He was exposing the infiltration of his own people by another force. Another entity came in and took over the commanding heights of his own people, and that's it. And Isaiah said the same thing. Jeremiah said the same thing. But that's what you're dealing with. And so, you know, it's hard, but it's like, so, but we got to fix it. So that's all my vision and plan is. So, you know, at any point you want to talk about, we can read it, and it's good. I think it's good. Did you read that little summary I sent you?
Yes, I read everything you sent me. Whether I remember anything, it's a different story. But yes, I have read.
That little summary, AI did a little kind of summary of the whole, you know, of the whole thing, and it's just, it's like an A4 sheet. I mean, you can read it really quickly, and that kind of covers the whole thing. And it says a bit about me, but that's a good thing to share around. I haven't got the book made yet, because I'll get the book very, very soon. I'm trying to get it going to print in the next week or two, but because I'm still working on it a little bit. I'm trying to get up to number 10, you know, 10 out of 10. So, but yeah, if you just read that summary and spread that summary around, that's good, right? That's if you haven't got time to read the whole book, just read that summary and see what it says about it. And but I shouldn't really put my name to it. I just should call it The Other Plan, and that's what I'm more likely going to call the book. But you know, we've had the Marshall Plan, and we've had a few other plans beginning with the M. So we thought I'd try another M, and it's like there was Senator Joseph McCarthy, and I tried to meet up with Roy Cohen when I was in America in 1986. That summer when I jumped off the Empire State Building, Roy, because I wanted to meet. I thought Senator Joseph McCarthy and his kind of right-hand man, his kind of, I guess his controller was a guy called Roy Cohen, a ruthless lawyer, brilliant lawyer. And he actually became an influencer to Donald Trump in the 70s and 80s. So, these things are connected. And I tried to meet up with Roy Cohen, but he was dying of AIDS in 1986. I did my jump in August and he died. No, I did my jump in April. He died in August. So I tried to meet up with him, but he wasn't seeing anyone. So the reason why I wanted to, because Senator Joseph McCarthy, the only famous McCarthys I could find were Billy the Kid, because he was a McCarthy, the cowboy Billy the Kid. Obviously, he was dead, and Senator Joseph McCarthy, well, he was dead. But I thought I'd chat to Roy Cohen, who was his kind of handler during the non-American. There was the trials when they were trying to expose the infiltration of the State Department by communist agents, and he did a great job of exposing that, and he was right. But his job really was to get everyone looking at communism, because the Cold War was on, and the Cold War was totally rigged, and it was another one. I mean, the amount of technology that was being transferred to the Soviet Union throughout the Cold War is a whole another story. So, but yeah, let's just focus on communism, because that was the story at the time, right? That was communism bad, and communism is bad, but it wasn't created by the Russian people, right? At all. It was funded by the City of London and Wall Street banks. That's who created it, and who was Karl Marx. So, communism is just capitalism without competition. And so, what Senator Joseph McCarthy was doing, he was getting everybody to look at communism, but don't talk about Fabian socialism, right? Let's not talk about the infiltration of Fabian socialism. Let's just focus on communism. Communism bad. Don't talk about, But Fabian socialism is the one that was going to do it, and Trotsky didn't like the Fabians because he wanted it all now. And Stalin killed Trotsky because they were at war. But the Fabians said, no, we're going to do it slowly. That's why they call it, named after the Russian commander, the Roman commander Fabius. They named it up because you grind an enemy down, or you do it slowly. You don't, especially if they're stronger than you. So that's what the Fabians did. They said, we're going to grind Western civilization down slowly but surely. We're going to destroy the family, the nation, and the religion, but we're going to do it incrementally over decades and generations in order to bring around a one world order socialist dictatorship. That's what they said in 1848. And everything has gone to plan. Everything has gone to plan. So if Mr. Lowe and Mr. Habib are tearing into that and coming up with a vision and a plan, not only for the sake of our nation, because it's not Mr. Habib's nation, right? Bless his heart. But in my plan, there is a place for him. If you look in my 26-point plan, there's an absolute place for Mr. Habib to live in England, right? If he wants to, but only under certain conditions. And so he could still live here massively. And but there you go. So it's like it's so so I've been rambling, but I just have to kind of set this. So it's about solutions. So we can whinge and whine. I don't whinge and whine. So we can whinge and whine, and okay, whinge and whine for 5% of the time, but 95% of your energy. Well, solutions. How are we going to fix this? I let my children whinge and whine for 30 seconds, right? That's allowed. You can vent. Okay, now let's fix it. What are we going to do? We got to fix this, right? Because that's more fun. That's an enjoyable thing. Is to figure out how to fix stuff, right? That's fun.
Yep.
And at the end, things get fixed. But if you're just whinging and whining all the time, nothing gets fixed. And so, yeah, I'll sit down with Mr. Habib and Mr. Lowe on camera, right? On camera, and we'll see what comes out. But I'm sure I'll never get that chance. But yeah, I know. So what points do you want to talk about?
Well, I've got the McCarthy plan up still. I did put it up earlier so people can get an initial look of it, but I have actually got it up. So let me bring the project page back up, because it's all there for people to see. I did put up that it is the McCarthyplan.com for people to go and have a look. Don's asking if you used to go on the channel House of Comments.
Oh, I did. Yeah, that was. I really like that guy, and I've forgotten his name. We never met up, and he married a German lady, so his children are mixed race. But nice guy. I really like. I've forgotten his name, and yeah, I don't know. But he was bright. He's a bright guy. And there was another. It was a black man. Really, I liked him as well. IC3 or something. He was from London. Yeah, I think he goes to. They both go to Speaker's Corner, I think, and I've forgotten that.
Oh, right.
I'm out of touch with both of them. But we had some good chats. I think I should chat on Skype. I chat on the phone with them, and I used to email them and stuff. And yeah, I've forgotten his name. I think it was IC3, but he was a black guy living in London. and really enjoy. Yeah, and he was pro-white, he was pro our people, and completely. And he used to get attacked at Speaker's Corner and
Like you do.
yeah, like you do. But yeah, so there's amazing people in our country. But I definitely would like to see the creation of the British Foreign Legion to get all these non-European men, trained and ready to be deployed. If there's any country in Africa that wants to put the good, wise, and virtuous people back in power, and that the British Foreign Legion will be there to ensure that they stay in power and give them the support that they need, and maybe train up their own army. But we've got the French Foreign Legion. I've got friends who are ex-French Foreign Legion and French Foreign Legion elite forces, and they would help create it. But yeah, we need to have the British Foreign Legion that is there primarily to protect the good, wise, and virtuous people of any nation that's trying to rise and take it back and put it in the hands of the good, wise, and virtuous, so that they can create a real nation, a genuine nation. Because no country in Africa is a genuine nation. They were created in that way. Those lines were drawn around them in order to, and so that there's all this other tribes. So there's all this tension. There's all this tension within these African nations, and they're at war. And every now and again they have a civil war, and a new puppet is put in place. But they're not genuine nations. I mean, Nigeria is at least 3 or 4 nations, depending on who you speak to from Nigeria. But it's not just one ethnic group, right? My Zulu friend in South Africa, living where he belongs, and a great guy, highly educated in tech. He can recognize what tribe you're from by the shape of your skull. That's in South Africa, so they know who they are. But they also know that they don't own their country. They don't own their continent. Their continent is owned by the City of London, right? And that's who owns Africa. And so, yeah, the City of London gives English people a bad name because the City of London doesn't belong to the English people. The King of England can't go into the City of London without permission. So it's this separate kind of little space that is giving us a bad name, giving the people of we're an archipelago of islands, the English, Irish, Scottish, and Welsh. These are our lands, and but we're given a bad name because of the City of London, right? We get the blame for all this, hundreds of years of stealing the land from other people. We get the blame for that, and yeah. So there you go. Mr. Lowe and Mr. Habib will fix it, right? And I think they can. I think if they actually came together, I mean, I don't think Mr. Habib should really be in the commanding heights, because it's an English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh thing that is being destroyed, right? But I'd like to see Mr. Habib in there. Maybe he can be overseeing remigration, but I think he should be given an executive role, but not the decision-making process. I think the kind of the aristocracy, because that's understanding, we don't have a genuine aristocracy. We don't have a genuine indigenous aristocracy, because a genuine aristocracy, and I sent you information about what a genuine aristocracy looks like. Yeah. That's the neck. Like, you have a head, right? You have a king, or you have a government, or you have a prime minister or a president, whatever. But the neck is the aristocracy, and so the neck should be good, wise, and virtuous, and able to make sure that the head is facing in the right direction in order to serve the people, because that's the head. They might be a dictator, but they have to serve the people. They're a servant, right? That's why they're there. But they have to be moral, and they have to be guided, because they're human, right? So they might make mistakes. They might whatever. They have their own character. They might be imperfect. But if they have a good, wise, and virtuous, genuine indigenous aristocracy, that head will be guided correctly. They'll they'll be positioned correctly, and their position primarily is to defend the nation, right? Is to defend its borders, right? And then within those borders, within the nation, their job is to make sure that only the good, wise, and virtuous are elevated to the commanding heights of the nation in all its institutions, whether it be education or healthcare or military. Only the commanding heights of all these state institutions can be populated by a representation of the best of its people. And that's the job of the college, which I think, if you're going to have a college in advance, it should be a representation of, it should be kind of like an aristocracy, really, because we don't have a genuine aristocracy in England, Wales, Scotland, or Ireland. All right, we just have these shameless opportunists, and they could be compromised, they could be blackmailed, they're just whatever, they are what they are. Whoever they are, they've allowed the collapse of their own nation. England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales are collapsing. They're collapsing. So we're living in a time of civilizational collapse, right? Well, when and I've been to a lot of wars, right? When it falls apart, it gets really ugly really quickly, and so that's where we're at, okay? And people like Ant Middleton and Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib, they understand this, right? But you have to get the indigenous aristocracy back in place, right? And you might, at this stage, only be able to get it in place in, that kind of round table below Ben Habib or below Rupert Law. I don't know if he's even got a round table, but that's what he needs. But that round table has to be of these islands. It has to be of our people, right? But there's a place for, there's totally a place for Ben Habib in all of this, right? And but I let me sit down with him and I'll find him a job, but I have a lot of respect for Mr. Habib, and I have a lot of respect for Mr. Lowe, but at the moment they don't know what they're doing. And I can show on an interview, on camera, we can expose that, but we can expose that but also fix that. And so we have to fix it. Ant Middleton knows how to fix problems, right? He's got the skill set, right? He's just not really using it, right? But he's got the skill set. He knows how to fix this. And any senior NCO or commander of elite forces knows how to fix stuff. And sadly, they're not allowed to. I've spoken to commanders who were in Afghanistan and Iraq, and they weren't allowed to do their job. They weren't allowed to be. They weren't allowed to do their job. So there you go.
But would you say we need a royal family?
Well, I don't believe it. I'm a monarchist myself. Aristotle said there's only three kinds of government. It's either monarchy, democracy, or oligarchy. That's it. And communism is oligarchy, right? So communism is a creation of the oligarchs. It's a creation of the central banks, right? So and we now live under an oligarchy. We don't, whatever you say, there's no evidence that we live under a democracy. And there's a reason why the Greeks got rid of democracy, right? Nothing successful is democratic. If you look at the leading orchestras in the world, the Berlin Philharmonic or others, you look at the leading ballet companies of the world, the leading corporations of the world, the leading rugby teams, the leading military, nothing successful is democratic. Nothing, right? So if you want success, you don't do democracy. What you do is you do meritocracy, and you do hierarchy, and you do a benign dictatorship. And in many ways, the American Constitution is the closest thing to kind of a monarchy. But it's the American Constitution is no longer in operation. That got deleted a long time ago. So what America is, it's an oligarchy, right? It's an oligarchy. All European, democracies everywhere are oligarchs because they're controlled by the money power, right? And so whoever's in place pretending to be a politician or pretending to be the government, they're just low-level bag people. They're low-level, they're just they're agents for the money power, right? Because if they try to go up against the money power, they'll be, displaced and replaced. And sometimes in order to displace and replace them, they'll have to die, or they'll just be bribed or exposed or whatever. The media is in the hands of the oligarchs, okay, and that's real. And and I've worked in mainstream media. I mean, most of my work was as a freelancer, but I've worked a little bit. I did some video for the BBC, but it's, the BBC is the enemy of the British people, right? The BBC was created to get Britain into the Second World War, But there you go.
So, Michelangelo is saying, so Hamas don't want to kill every Jew by your statement, Michael.
Well, Islam is about submission. That's what the word means, right? It's like yes, of course they do, because in Islam it's an expansionist religion, and in Islam they believe that everyone is a Muslim, but they don't realize that yet. And the job of Islam when it comes into your country is to convince you that you are a Muslim. You just have to recognize that and convert, and now you're a Muslim, so you're safe. And if you don't, we have the right, in their understanding of the divine, they have the right to kill you, right? They have the right, and they're allowed to kill you. And if you look at things like Noahide laws, which is a creation of the rabbis, it's not in the Torah. It's not the Noahide laws are not the original Abrahamic faith. It's kind of this add-on thing. But in the Noahide laws, idolatry is punishable by death, and I think it's beheading actually. And so Christianity, in the eyes of rabbinical Judaism, is idolatry, right? They actually recognize Islam because they feel that Islam acknowledges the one true creator. Of course, their interpretation about the one true creator, we can debate about that, is false, because the one true creator didn't want you to chop anyone's head off, right? It's not about killing. The original Abrahamic faith was for all people, right? But a particular people was supposed to set the standard. But there was no destruction of all the nations, as long as those nations maintained that moral compass and maintained that connection with the divine, right? And that's why the two greatest commandments are love God. That's your creator, right? We were created. Physics has proven God. Right? Physics has proven. They call it intelligent design. Some of them call it God. Those ones don't get funding, but theoretical physics has proven God, right? They call it intelligent design, and so we have to love that. You have to love what created you, whatever it was that created you. And I don't think it was some guy in the clouds with a beard, right? But it was. We were created, right? And as everything on the earth was created. It was, so we have to love that, but we have to honor that, and we honor that best by loving our neighbor. And that's what Yeshua said. The two greatest commandments are love God, love your neighbor, right? Yeah. And our neighbors aren't just the people next door to us, but the nation next door to us, but also the living systems of the planet. You read the letter from Chief Seattle, his letter to the American president at the time, when the U.S. government at the time was trying to buy his land around the state of Oregon, and he wrote this beautiful letter. And if you go on the tribal website, it's there, and it'll make you cry. It's they saw, the Native American Indian people saw the trees as their brothers, and the deer as their sister. It's like they saw all of nature as their relatives. They saw the living systems of the planet. They took from it and they ate from it, but they honored the animal that they killed. They just didn't, let's go kill a rabbit and munch away. No, they think we've killed an animal. We've ended an animal's life in order so that it will feed us and feed our children. And so they gave thanks, because it's, and so they saw that in nature. It's an incredible letter. And so that's how we should engage with the world, right? We should we should honor one another and love one another and love the nature, but our industrialized lifestyle, our material lifestyle is it's not good. So, we're pissing on the grave of the nature that we've destroyed, that we've killed. Every river of the world, every ocean of the world is polluted, right? Species extinction has never been so great. What's going on in the world? The bee population. Once you lose the bees, you lose everything. Nothing gets pollinated. It's just just read Blip by Christopher Clugston. So that's a big part of my vision and plan is the understanding of money and where it comes from, and the international money power, which is why there's lots of books I could recommend. There's hundreds of books, but I think a good beginner's guide to it is The Babylonian Woe by David Astle. Read that book, then you'll understand. So it's like, we have to fix this because no one's coming to save us. But it's like my mother used to say, now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of the nation. And that's every nation, right? That's every nation. And to me, we have a responsibility to people on the archipelago of islands that we all live on, the English, the Irish, the Scottish, and the Welsh. We have a moral obligation, I feel, because we were the cannon fodder. We were the group that were pushed all over the world to steal these lands. I mean, the Spanish, they got pushed around as well, and more to South America, but pretty much it's the Anglos, it's the people of the Welsh, the Scottish, the English, and the Irish that were pushed around and did a lot of harm and stole these nations, right, and created these propositional nations. But we're the ones that need to say that the emperor wears no clothes, expose that, but also fix it, and we can fix it, and that's what I'm trying to do with my 26-point plan. And anyone improve it. I'm not attached to it at all. I'm attached to it at the moment. I'm attached to the vision. I'm attached to the points because I think they're the best but I think they can be improved. So I'm not attached to them being improved. I want them to be improved, right? But more importantly, I want them to be realized. And it's the job of the people of these islands to get their act together. And we love all peoples of the world, right? But we know that it is, and we have thousands of years of the historical record and contemporary data that we know that it is impossible to effectively govern a multicultural, multiracial, multi-religious, and multi-degeneracy society. It will collapse in bloodshed because that's what it's always done. Right, so we have the historical record, we have the contemporary data, because that's happening now, that's what happens. When you try to create a propositional nation that is multicultural, multi-religious, multiracial, multi-degeneracy, it's going to collapse into bloodshed. And who suffers the most? Women and children. So how much do you deeply care about women and children? And that's it, man. Piece of cake.
Makes sense. Michelangelo is asking, Michael, is the Jesuit oath a conspiracy theory in your opinion?
Whatever. All these people take oaths. If I don't know what oaths they take. I don't get into the religious thing. My faith is on my Creator, right? I would stay away from the religions, right? Stick to the faith. Stick to the faith in your Creator. And your Creator wanted you to love your Creator, the creative forces that created you, and to love your neighbor, right? So just stick to that. Just stick to that. And don't get caught up in the denominational divide or the religious divide, right? I stick to the original Abrahamic faith, and that's it. Love God, love your neighbor. And know, like what makes a high crime, sorry, I know what makes, if you want a high crime, low trust society, okay, work on the melting pot, work on the multi-religious, multi-racial, multi-degeneracy, multi-race, multi-religious, multicultural, and multi-degeneracy society. Work on those. Work on that, and you'll get yourself a high crime, low trust society. But if you want to work on a low crime, high trust society, well, figure out what a genuine nation is and how best to protect it, to strengthen it and defend it for the sake of itself and all nations of the world. Work on that, right? And I've done that with my plan, right? I've done that, and because that's how you create a low crime, high trust society. And that's all I'm trying to do for the sake of the children all over the world. We adults have to create a high trust, low crime society all over the world, right? And that's not being done anywhere, because it proves that every government is in on it, because not one government in the world said we need to have a genuine criminal investigation about 9/11. We need to have a genuine criminal investigation about COVID. No government saying that, because it can very, very, very easily be proven, that these things, both of those things, were a crime against humanity. But every government's in on it. At the top, it's all coordinated, and I know that because I've been behind the curtain. And if you've done surveillance or you've done close protection, you know there's something going on. And you can earn a lot of money in that world. Just shut up, because as soon as you start questioning it, and you don't get invited to the parties anymore. And so I have to be a little bit careful, because I want to get invited to the parties. But I know when I went to quite a few in London, and in I got kind of tagged in photojournalism early on, actually. Well, because all wars are rigged, and if you're a photojournalist, you kind of know that. You know that there's you know that if you're a photojournalist, you know that mainstream media doesn't tell the truth. But if you want to keep selling stuff, just shut up. Just show us your photographs and we'll buy them. But if you start critiquing mainstream media, you get tagged pretty quick, and you won't make a living out of it. But thankfully, I had other ways to make a living, so that's what I did.
Robin has been posting a few in there, but it's basically saying fixed all this, full stop. I think it's saying about 90% was fixed as well, but I think Robin might have emailed you as well at some point. So but it's a 150-page paper. Well, I'm not reading that 150 pages, but let me see if there's any questions in here for you. I've got your the McCarthy plan up. Is there any points that you want to specifically point out, or there's 25 on here?
Right. What's the good one for Mr. What's a good one for Mr. Habib? I've forgotten which one that is. Hang on, I'll get my.
I like number 8, but
you like number 8?
Yep. But
let's go through it. I'll look at number 8. Hang on. What have I wrote about number 8? What? Number 8, chapter 8. Okay, chapter 8, number 8. Okay. This is about stewardship of natural resources and the environment. So each nation will maintain possession of the natural resources of their nation and must be responsible for the protection and management of the nation's natural environment and those resources extracted from beneath the surface land and territorial waters of the nation, oil, minerals, etc. Foreign assistance as a junior partner in the management and extraction will be welcomed when necessary. The necessity to extract such materials will be determined by a unified World Council within the truly United Nations organization, not the one that exists right now, but non-renewable resources and their necessity in global industrialization must be collectively determined by the good, wise, and virtuous people of the world gathered together at the truly United Nations. The book Blip by Christopher Clugston will help in the understanding of the necessity of this policy. So unless you've read that book, you won't understand. And buy that book. You buy that book. And yeah, I'm sure there's somewhere, maybe in archive.org, maybe someone's put it out. But the last chapter is the one to read. But yeah, it's just full of, you know, academic data. But the last chapter, that's the one. But and then what did I do on? Maybe it's a long chapter, but there's a lot in there. But
yeah, I bet there's a lot to unpack with that. But
yeah, I've got yeah. Oh, just in the historical context, past attempts at global resource management, like the 1970s New International Economic Order or modern critical mineral initiatives, have faced resistance from vested interests, right? And so the 0.8's approach is it's more collaborative, but without addressing debt or border negotiations, it could falter in place. And debt, I've covered debt in 0.4, and border negotiations are in 0.6 and 7. So what did I see on 0.4 on debt? Oh yeah. All right, I put here for, oh, that's yeah, so to realize, yeah, 0.4 is establishing a truly United Nations for lasting world order. To realize Vision 2020 and end wars of aggression while promoting environmental stewardship, the creation of a truly United Nations organization is essential. This new entity would foster a genuine world order based on equity, cooperation, and mutual respect among all nations. Current global organizations are viewed as instruments of international financial powers, including central banking networks, which hinder authentic peace efforts. A worldwide conference on debt must be convened to address economic imbalances and pave the way for sustainable global harmony. And the UN doesn't do that at all.
No, no, it doesn't.
And prove me wrong, doesn't at all. And I have a friend right now in New York working in the UN. You get really well paid in the UN, by the way. And their parties are wonderful parties, all of them cameraed up, of course. And you have a great time at a UN party. And if you just keep quiet, there's a job for life, right? There's a job for life. And so, you know, these people, they keep quiet and they're well paid and they keep their jobs. But as soon as they say, you know, expose that the emperor wears no clothes, they won't be in the UN. Well, they'll be given a serious talking to by their manager, and then. But if they go public, then they're out of a job, you know. And there's many books have been written on UN corruption. I mean, you know, it's organized crime, but they do incredible work in the field. But they don't really, you know, they hack away at the branches, but they don't go to the root. And that's it.
Up the Cherries asked, what type of person could be a leader in this country then, Michael? I'm confused after listening to you. Give me one example, please, so I know what ballpark you're in.
As long as they're good, wise, and virtuous, and have an above average IQ, and surround them with like-minded people, then yeah, that's the kind of leadership you need. Whether it be a king or a president or, you know, yeah, prime minister, whatever. They just have to be above average IQ, good, wise, and virtuous, and surround themselves with qualified people. And that's it. I won't mention any names because none spring to mind, but they're out there, and there's lots of them out there. There are lots of them out there. And I mean, I got an award actually from he was Prince Charles at the time, and when I was 20, along with I was in the army at the time, but yeah, I got an award in the Pall Mall Club in London, and got to meet Prince Charles. He shook my hand, and I was the youngest member of the team, so he had his he gave me a look, and I didn't smile back. I was a bit nervous at the time. The Prince of the future king, meeting me, but so we chatted a little bit. Maybe if I'd smiled back, my career would have been different, but I didn't. So, but yeah, so I met him that one time, and but yeah, he's not a genuine king of England, right? If he was a genuine king of England, he would defend the borders. First thing, right? That's the first thing you do.
Yeah.
Like the first thing you do as a parent is you make sure your home is safe, right? Your home is safe. My home is safe.
Yeah.
And although any SWAT team could kick the door down at any moment, but no. So you take care. When we go to bed at night, the doors are locked, right? We're safe when we're asleep. But so no, he's not the genuine. I mean, he might be legally the king of England, but no, he's a compromised asset of the intelligence community, and who primarily serve the central banks. That's it. He's
a bit friendly with Islam as well, isn't he?
No, whatever he's doing,
he's converted.
He's doing what he's told to do, right? There's that great photograph, actually. That one, I love that photograph of Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, who's passed away now, peace be upon his eternal soul. But there's that great photograph of Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, looking down at Prince Charles, poking him in the chest, and that's basically it. That's the royal family, so they've been captured, peace be upon them all. But then they're not. He's not a genuine king. He might be legally, right, but he's not a real king. He should be a real king for the English, the Irish, and the Scottish, and that's it. And I'm a monarchist myself. Of those three ways of running a country that Aristotle spoke about. Democracy, oligarchy, or monarchy. I'm more of a monarchist myself, so I believe that because that's it. That's a genuine monarch is a benign dictator, and benign is kind and gentle. So you just kindly, gently put the criminals in a civilized and very secure education and labor facility. But you can do that kindly and gently, but you just have to dictate that because that's what you deem to do. But no, and I'd be happy to sit down with King Charles, highly unlikely, and have a chat with him on camera. And I will help him become a good king. And he's actually Colonel in Chief of the Parachute Regiment. I don't know if he still is, even though he never did P Company, but he can wear a red beret. He did some jumps. So I think he did actually jump out of a C-130 or maybe a balloon. But so he's got his wings. So he's Colonel in Chief of the Parachute Regiment. I don't know if he is still, but he was when he was Prince. And but he would never have passed P Company, that's for sure. But if I was on his staff, I would turn him into a good king. I know what a good king looks like. So. Yep. Maybe there's a job there for me, but I'd pack up tomorrow and I would help him become a good king, a king that would stand in history as the greatest king we've ever had, And but I'm a monarchist, and I believe that Ireland should have its king back. We need our own king. We used to have a high king here, and and we lost our high king. That's a whole nother story. But yeah, I'm a monarchist. That's the right way.
Actually,
the Greeks would agree with me. is not the right way to run a country.
No, I was hoping that William was going to get hold of me, actually, because Arthur had Merlin. Every good king has a wizard. I thought, wow, William's going to phone me, surely.
Right. Yeah, totally. I think you got to have that. That they should be there. But no, you need a good king, and
without a doubt,
it's very, very sad what's happened. But yeah, we haven't had a, no, we need a good, wise, and virtuous king if you're into democracy, and Ireland needs the same. In Ireland, we need our king back. We need a good, wise, and virtuous king to create a genuine indigenous, good, wise, and virtuous aristocracy. We don't have a king. We don't have an aristocracy. The English, Scottish, and Welsh people don't have a king. They don't have a genuine aristocracy. They don't have a genuine king. So it's all theatre, right? It's all theatre. It's all.
I think
it's all.
They lost faith in the royal They've lost faith in the royal family. And then what Brian said here, this conspiracy theory is still going around. It's like so fake, but like saying he converted to Islam in 2017 in secret. Like, no, he never. He never. But I know. People lost faith in him because I don't know. Well, the whole royal family, because I reckon it changed probably with Lady Diana at that point. I think that's
well. If he is a Muslim, he's a terrible Muslim, because Muslims know what to do with degeneracy, and I don't agree with them at all. They know how to take care of degeneracy, right? I mean, in Islam, there's three genders, right? There's three genders. There's man, there's woman, and there's off the roof. That's it. That's all there is in Islam. So if you want to be a degenerate, Islam knows how to take care of you. It's not the correct way. It's certainly not the way of the original Abrahamic faith, but in their interpretation of it, you can stone them to death, throw them off a roof, or behead them. So the King of England's not a very good Muslim. No, he's a player. He's acting like a king. Well, he's not even acting like a king, but he's dressing up like a king. Peace be upon him. Oh, I'd love to meet him again for the second time. And if he just followed my guidelines, he'd be an incredible king. I mean, he's got the slot right. So okay, be a king, but be a real king. Be a real king, and behave accordingly. Take your country back from the people that have stolen it, and they stole it a long, long time ago. Well, you just have to look at who funded Oliver Cromwell. Who funded the Norman invasion? I mean, the Norman invasion was funded, right? The Norman invasion of Ireland was funded. It was funded. None of this stuff is hidden. Academia knows who funded the Norman invasion of Ireland. Actually, they were invited in by the Irish were at war with one another, which is the history of the Irish. The Irish, we're called the Fighting Irish, not because we fight the enemy, but because we fight amongst ourselves, and that's tragic. You would have thought they'd figured it out somehow, but they're still fighting amongst themselves, even in the nationalist movement. It's very, very sad. But I'm hopeful that eventually they'll stop fighting and figure out how to be a light unto the world. And I believe that's going to happen. But yeah, so England needs its king back. It doesn't have one at the moment. It has one in name only.
Yeah.
And it has an aristocracy in name only. It doesn't have a genuine aristocracy, and it doesn't have a genuine monarch. And that's it.
I'll agree with that. Exactly that. Oh, I can't believe that's an hour and 40 minutes. I cannot believe it's been that long. It done it last time. You were talking, and it was like an hour and a half. I was like, what?
What's a good one on Ben Habib and about foreign people having residency in the country? I've forgotten which one it was.
Well, I mean, I was looking at number 15 about the crime and getting them out. I thought that was a good one. There was number 19 was about the current. Oh no, that's.
Oh, number 11 I've got. Since we're talking about minimalist border security for orderly protection. To secure its borders effectively, each nation requires only sufficient security forces to prevent breaches by foreign individuals or groups attempting illegal entry. Additionally, these measures must ensure that the nation's own citizens exit only through designated legal points such as airports, seaports, or official international border crossings. This streamlined approach fosters trust among nations, minimizes unnecessary militarization, and aligns with Vision's 2020 vision of peaceful, respectful global interactions. I don't know, where was the one on residents though? Man.
Number 22 was citizenship. See that one?
22. Oh, there's a number. Okay. To foster a sense of national continuity and cultural heritage, citizenship must ideally be conferred upon any individual who has at least one parent native to the host nation, prioritizing ties to ancestral homelands for stability and identity preservation. In cases of mixed parentages, preference must be given to the father's ancestral homeland as the primary basis for citizenship eligibility, reflecting traditional lineage principles. If the mother is native to the host nation and the father is of a foreign race or ethnicity, the policy encourages the mother's integration as a new citizen in her husband's ancestral homeland, along with all children from the union. This approach aims to promote family unity across borders while respecting the paternal lineage and reciprocal agreements between nations to facilitate such transitions smoothly and equitably. I think there's more. There's loads more to that pages, but that's all right. There's more about. Anyway, that's it. So that's it, I guess. Loads more. But yeah, well, yeah. Just read the. There's loads on each point. Just read the 25 points on the website and AI rates.
Yep.
Rate all collectively at 9.5 out of 10.
Well, you can't knock that. That's good.
That's it, bro.
I'm just seeing if there's no other questions in there either. That's good. That's good. Obviously, if anything else pops up in whatever, then obviously you are more than welcome. Just email me and we'll sort something else out again. Whether we actually read all of these out, and then just sort of say little bits about each one and go through every one of these 25 points if you wish in the future. Anything to get your message out there, anything that help you, mate, it's not a problem because it fascinates me. I don't know. Goes when you're talking, it's literally flown by.
Well, what I'm going to do is on my own YouTube channel, which there's nothing on it. On my I've linked loads of books and films and education stuff on, but on the actual website on the channel there's no nothing up there, but it does link to some interesting stuff. So what I will do is on the channel soon, I'll put every point. I'll do a little stream on each chapter.
Yeah.
And then I'll just do I'll just do a couple of minutes on each chapter, with expanding the point and then kind of a summary on the point. And then I think that's what I need to do. And I could do that in one day, really. But I got all sorts of farmyard animals and children and guinea pigs and dogs and cleaning, and so I'm trying to keep it all together, and then laundry, washing up, And so we're busy around here. But yeah, I've got to get this book out there. But what I will do on my channel, which is Peace Para, is because I'm a peaceful ex-paratrooper, and so Peace Para is my YouTube channel, and I think there's I think I'm on LinkedIn, Michael McCarthy Island on LinkedIn. I don't really do LinkedIn. Certainly don't do Facebook. I don't have a mobile phone. So yeah, I don't do those things. But yeah, on my YouTube channel, I'll put 26 YouTube things up, and then that'll cover it. I'll put one on the vision, and then I'll do 26 streams on the points. And I can do that in a day. So I just got to find somewhere to do that, and that's it.
Yep, I'll put your link.
I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, no worries. We'll make sure we advertise that, and I'll make sure I mention it to people.
And send my best to Mose, because I was really looking forward to having him on, because there's a place for him also in my plan, and a place for him to live in England if he wants to, but he just has to comply with reasonable demands, which are all on there. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we had work commitments today.
Send my best to Mose. I get a real good vibe from Mose. I
like him.
We'd be great, and but yeah. So what's his genetic cocktail? What's Mose?
I think he said he's from Japan.
Oh, he's Japanese. I lived in Japan, and
was it Japan? I think it was
Japanese.
That's what he said.
He doesn't look Japanese.
No, was it Hong Kong?
Yeah, so he might. Is he Han Chinese? Yeah, he's not Japanese.
It's Hong Kong. No, I think it's Hong Kong.
Okay. Yeah, I just wonder what his genetic cocktail is. That both his parents?
I believe so, but then he's to come to England. Maybe he's just because Hong Kong was under British rule, though, wasn't it, for a while? So I think he said something about that. Yeah, it was Hong Kong. The lecture doctor said
100 years after the Opium Wars. Yeah, the Opium Wars, which was obviously run out of the city of London. The Emperor of Japan of China at the time said, give Britain Hong Kong for 100 years, and then they took it back 100 years later. I think 1997. But I've been to Hong Kong quite a few times. But yeah, I jumped off the top of the tallest building in Asia at the time, which was the Bank of China. So I jumped off the top of that, and one night, so I've walked all the way up the stairs because they were building it at the time. So the elevators. So yeah, it was a long walk all the way to the top of that building, and but I certainly wasn't going to walk down, so I jumped off the top, and so that's it. So yeah, I know Hong Kong, and so there you go. So right on. Have the best day ever, bro. Thank you so much for your time.
It's been brilliant. Appreciate that, mate. Let me know if you ever want to come back on and advertise your channel, whatever it might be, and just let me know, mate. Whack me an email. Happy days.
Yeah, brilliant. And I'd be happy to chat to anyone on this stuff, really. But we've got to. It's about solutions. Just got to be solutions. And Ben Habib and Mr. Habib and Mr. Lowe, good men. They got to figure this stuff out. I don't think Mr. Lowe is handling it correctly. I don't think Mr. Habib is handling it correctly. I think they're being a bit childish, really. But I've got so much hope, and they're all saying great things. They really are. But they need to say more, and they don't have real solutions, actually. But they're edging in that direction. They're certainly edging in that direction. They're certainly above average. But in the pursuit of excellence, they've got to keep on going, but they're definitely moving in the right direction. And so, it's exciting times. Rome wasn't built in a day.
That's very true. Very true.
I think there's a lot to look forward to, and I genuinely believe that we'll eventually figure out how to end all wars of aggression between nations, and to be good stewards of the natural environment of our nations. And I'll keep believing in that until the day I take my last breath, and and I hopefully am righteous enough to have a place in the world beyond. And I will keep on working on my righteousness, because it's not perfect yet, but it's so yeah, we're winning. I'd say we're winning.
Happy days. That's all that
But
matters.
we haven't won. But we haven't won. We haven't won yet, but we are winning.
Nope.
And,
Brilliant. Excellent.
carry on, brother. Carry on.
Indeed. There we go, ladies and gents. Michael McCarthy. How brilliant was that? Doing his thing. He had a lot to say. I hope you're all right in the chat. I mean, blimey, where does the time go? An hour and 15 minutes. It done it last time. Time literally flies by when Michael's talking. I just get so involved. I'm just sat there listening. It's like being at school when you're listening to someone who's just like far superior in knowledge than you, and you just absorb it like a sponge. But yes, it's all happy days. But anything you want to say in the comments, guys, before we wrap it up? Basically, don't forget, tonight, 9:30, we are doing the Gaunton and Denton by-election results live. It'd be interested to see what happens. But I'm on tonight too with Wiz, I reckon. Yep, definitely. I will open it up to people as we're talking about the by-election. Whoever thinks who's going to win, I will open it up to the people. And so if you'd like to come up and have a chat with us tonight and say whoever it is you're voting for, if you hope they win, whether it's Greens, Labour, Reform, Advance. So, yep, you will all be, I will have a link that I can put up in the chat, and you can come up and have your say tonight. But that's at 9:30, ladies and gents, tonight. 9:30. So and Brian, yeah, I did see what you say. I've got his email address. I'll if you can email me the Wizard's Words UK@gmail.com. Email me, mate. I can, in the first instance, whatever it may be, I can forward it to him for you, and I'll ask him if I can give out his email address. So but yeah, I have got it. I don't really give other people's details out, mate. But if you want to email me, like I say, at the Wizard's Words UK@gmail.com, it's on my about page, my email address. If you want to email me with whatever, and I will forward it to him and say, is it okay to or saying that, email it to me, I can forward it to Michael, and then he can actually respond to you because he'll have your email address. If you could do it like that, mate, if that's all right. I think it's the best way to do it, because obviously I can't just start throwing out someone's email address. But if you want to send it to me, I'll send it to him. Then he may respond, and to you and me. So the Wizard's Words UK Electrodoc. I can see that you forgot the UK at gmail.com. The Wizard's Words UK at gmail.com. So happy days. So yeah, hopefully, fingers crossed for Nick Buckley tonight. Yeah, definitely. So hang on, let me. There you go, mate. I've just posted that up. How about that? There you go. That's my email address. Happy days. Email it to me and I'll forward it to him, mate. That is not a problem. Oh, happy days. So that'd be good. So got that video with Rupert Lowe being exposed about the grooming gang. It's going crazy. There's a ridiculous amount of comments. I'm not going to be able to respond to all them people, am I? But yeah, it's all good, ladies and gents. So 9:30. Don't forget, 9:30. It should be good. We'll do the Gaunton and Denton live. So be sure to tune in. Come up, have a say. It'll be brilliant. So all the best to everything. So thank you to all of you in chat. I appreciate it, as always. Of course I do. Don't forget, tonight it's going to be a good one. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, like I say, at the end of every single live stream or video, that is the Wizard's Words.